I just realized there's no pre-read in there for me, but that's okay. I'll wing. No, the research. Your saving grace, Olu, was the research was really good, but there's no pre-read on any of it, so I'll be freestyling.
Mate, I'm actually in as host today as well. No,
you're in as host. Oh, so we can hear you.
All of my transgressions have been laid bare for the listeners this week.
Okay. Now there's the honesty test of will this make the cold open?
I will put this in the cold open.
Do you want me to edit this week?
Mate, this won't come out until next year if you edit it, mate.
Welcome back to the Offsite Podcast, and we're joined once again by Carlos Carvalho. I'm Jason Lancini. Mate, welcome back. 2 weeks in a row with you back in the saddle.
You say that like 2 weeks is an achievement now after doing like 75 odd episodes.
It definitely beats the old scramble of actually who is going to join the conversation tonight. Do you know what we've not had in a number of weeks while you're away is an opening fun fact at the start of an episode?
This isn't really a fact, but this is a non-construction piece of news, which I'm not even going to preamble it. Google have been fined by Russia $2 undecillion rubles, which is $3 trillion.
This is going to show my age, but when you read that, you should do the Dr. Evil voice.
Dr. Evil?
Yeah. That's
$1 trillion.
Undecillion.
So it's like, I don't know how many multiples of global GDP that is, but they basically said to Google, you can't operate until you pay your fine. So someone somewhere is having a laugh and they're like, just keep writing zeros. Dr. Evil's at play.
I think I saw
I'd imagine
a headline
when they do a cost versus value exercise there, they probably won't bother with Russia.
Because once they pay, Russia will just ban them again. It's like
Oh, that works.
That's actually
Microsoft.
really good. We should stop doing the oil thing, and we should just do the banning of global technology companies.
This is way easier, guys. Sat around their pool with sharks with lasers on their heads.
I think I saw a headline on that, which was like Russia fines Google more money than is in the entire world. I think technically.
I think there's just a really solid sense of humor from them. Like, is it a negotiation tactic? You know, when you anchor yourself high, and then suddenly like 100 billion is nothing.
All right, so today you and me, we're going to tackle 3 interesting topics actually. So the first one is we're going to look at the Extremely Large Telescope, which is the technically correct name. Which is a super interesting project that is underway in Chile, being built by the European Space Agency and is slightly late. Next, we'll dive into a recent list of top technology contech companies and kind of go, that's cool, let's make our own list. And finally, the news in Australia last week or the week before it'll be last week when this comes out. Is a major tunneling package awarded on the Suburban Rail Loop project for a couple of $2 billion to international contractors. And so we can talk about that project and the trend of international contractors winning major projects around the world. But to kick things off, a really big telescope. So the background of this is that there is a telescope. It's a really big telescope. It's technically and scientifically called the Extremely Large Telescope, the ELT. And it is a major space telescope being built by the European Space Agency. And it's being built in the Atacama Desert in Chile. On top, one of the most unique places in the world. And so I guess that's interesting to dive into about how you would build such a thing in such a location. But it's basically in the middle of a desert on a kind of like big rock.
3,000 meters up. Yeah. They had to level the mountain Yeah.
No, it's not 3,000. You mean 3,000 meters above sea level?
Yeah, same thing.
I don't think the Rock is 3,000 because I think that is technically
it's already
Mount
in
Everest.
a range, and then it's a peak. Yeah.
I'm just quickly googling Mount Everest.
It is massive. Like, watch the old B1M video for it just to see some nice visuals, and it is huge. But the first thing that did make me laugh was construction started in 2014. As of last year, they passed the halfway point, and it's due to open in 2028. So those, by rough calculations, says I don't think it's opening in 2028 if it was halfway last year. But it's as you said, it's in the middle of a desert. I think they said it's hundreds of miles from like a reasonable sized town. It's on a mountain within a mountain range where they've used dynamite to level up to make a flat surface. And the reason why they're doing that is because there was like a bunch of factors like light pollution, nowhere to be seen. Even things like water vapor in the air. So it's like, I guess, thinner air. So it's more powerful rather than like culling its ability within our own atmosphere. So logistically it makes sense, but the practicalities of building that job are nuts. So the first thing that came to mind was just the day-to-day. Like, engineers forget stuff. You can't just call in like some extra aggregate or some concrete. Like, I don't know how that works. Do you overstock everything and then be really inefficient? Is it that precise and measured at both ends that you try and mitigate that risk altogether? But then even little things like fuel for cranes. Do you have huge fuel tanks on site? Like, how do you put food and water into cabins and presumably accommodation for people? So that logistical part of it.
The planning required for kind of remote projects is really interesting. It's fun and it's like complicated because you, having worked on a like semi-remote project for 5 years myself, which was like, it wasn't anywhere near in the middle of the desert in Chile, on top of a mountain, but it was on an island off the coast of Australia. It wasn't that far away, like 15-minute boat ride or something, but the simplest thing, you can have organized 100 different things and you can be missing one bolt and you can't proceed. And so the stakes are just so much higher for planning and for organization, and for something as complicated as a design, as an object like this that has to be super precise and super accurate. And you can imagine if you cracked one of these, it's got this massive big mirror on it. You damage anything there, you're stuffed. That puts you back however long, 6 months, a year, I don't know, who knows. The like detailed design of knowing every single bolt, nut, washer, whatever. The construction methodology for how many people, where they're going to stay, how they're going to get in and out. Although on the scale of
like emergency services, for example, like do you have things on site? Because like there's no chance you're having any sort of response time.
I think what on the project that I worked on, there were first responders permanently on the project. Right. There was a helicopter or 2 helicopters owned by the project. And so that the basic emergency response plan is like, that's your first response. And then you're straight in a helicopter to a hospital from there. Again, that was 15 minutes from a city and the mainland. This is much further away. And so, you're right. That is another consideration.
So there's there were a few areas. So that's obviously like the logistical constraints of operating this site. Building this site, so you love a bit of concrete. Dust, temperature, wind, like, are you having to really control the environment? Because surely those 3 things would be awful on the top of a mountain trying to pour concrete.
Yeah, but it's cold there, isn't it, from memory?
I'd imagine it's really cold.
Cold is less bad. The worst combo is hot, windy, and dry. Because while the concrete's curing, you're just getting like water just sucked out of it. I also have a very bad horror story about that. But I just keep coming back to logistics of, you definitely have to build a batch plant. You need to get all the equipment for a batch plant. You need to get all the consumables, the aggregate. Judging by the photos, that have no problem with sand. There's plenty of sand.
But would you build like a temporary structure, like a tent over it, so it's shielded from the elements?
You would have to cure the concrete. Are you talking about the concrete itself?
Yeah, like if you're doing a concrete pour, do you want to be stopping the wind and the dust, or is that not really like gonna screw up emits?
If it was like cyclonic wind or like super aggressive wind, you would have some plan. Usually some shielding of wind it never does that good a job. So it's probably the curing process and how they were going to cover it. You can do all sorts of membranes and stuff on the top.
Okay.
But surely it can't be too windy there, because the wind is going to affect the accuracy of the telescope. Maybe pass.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you want to, if we dive into the actual like nerdy side of telescopes for a second, you might remember the big telescope news, and in telescope
Hubble 2
news.com, not Hubble 2, James Webb.
Yeah.
So I guess for context, there's like the Hubble, then there's the James Webb, and then there's this one, the extremely large telescope. One of the key things is the size of this big mirror that's collecting all the light and everything. And so for context, Hubble was 2.4 meters. James Webb is 6.5 meters. This one is 40 meters almost. So it's significantly bigger. They like to put the telescopes into space because it gets through the Earth's atmosphere and you don't have to like look through the atmosphere. And so this one here has this ability to do like what they call adaptive optics to get through the atmospheric interference. And so I was kind of doing some research as to if the James Webb was like a recent thing, what is the purpose of this thing compared to James Webb, given it has to deal with the atmospheric interference. But the James Webb is infrared type camera. This has the ability to do direct imaging. So like literally taking a picture of the planet. And so it will be the highest resolution images, actual images of like planets and distant galaxies. Yeah. So even though it's in the middle of the desert, it's definitely easier than doing maintenance on a rocket or a telescope orbiting.
Yeah, that's substantially easier if you compare the two. Yeah, there was definitely part of the research where there was something to do with how this utilizes lasers. Another Austin Powers Dr. Evil moment, but I didn't have the mental capacity to dig into the science of the difference between the two and how they operate. But
the thing with James Webb, if I remember correctly, is that it's like because it doesn't have to go through the atmosphere, it can observe a wavelength that gets blocked effectively by the atmosphere, like some infrared wavelength, which is the benefit. So they basically have different jobs, is the summary. Of the two of them. So at some point there'll be some photos.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I was thinking about as well was just to wrap up, when it's actually live, and you basically live in the bush, so you might know the answer. Maintenance.
I live in Brisbane's third. I live in Australia's third largest city. Currently.
The actual telescope is on a platform which obviously rotates, and it's on this like seismic pad that deals with earthquakes. So there's going to be loads of exposed mechanical elements. Isn't that an absolute nightmare with things like dust over time? And like, how do you...
It's like the most British comment ever. Do you not like it on the beach either because of the sand?
But like, if you're spending £1 billion on a telescope, it's going to be pretty messed up, you'd expect, after 5 to 10 years. Or am I just being naive to things that they already have? Yeah, dirty. Get the cleaners.
All in all, it's much easier to do the maintenance on it here on the top of the mountain than floating around the planet.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool.
Righto, moving on. So in recent news, Build and Digital website has released recently their top 25 tech partners as kind of like a listicle of the top con-tech construction software products to kind of watch. And that got us thinking. It's been a while since we've talked back and forth about the things that we're watching or the things that we are finding interesting in terms of construction technology. We thought, all right, let's make our own list. Our list won't get to 25, but we basically challenged each other to bring our like top 3 construction technology companies that have, and we kind of put some bounds on it. So you can't just go and pick like Autodesk and be like, they're the one to watch. I think they're going to do some cool stuff. So the rules were effectively that they need to have less than 50 employees on LinkedIn. And so bring to the table and kind of run through what you as a former construction quantity surveyor, would be liking or using it for. Do you want to kick it off?
I'm not allowed to say document crunch, am I? Because we've already named them on 2 episodes.
They're going to be over 50 employees by now. They're
Yeah,
definitely
that's
going to be
true.
over 50 employees. I think a lot of the folks that we've had on the join us for conversations, I think Procure Pro will be over 50. 57 just. I was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go first, because that was actually my third
it
one.
was
So I
tough.
need to find
So-
another one.
Yeah. So when I think back to my days as a QS and setting out on site, it's challenging. No, there's one organization called Field Printer, and they have something called the Dusty Robotics machine. And
I've seen
I'm
that.
going to share my
Yeah.
screen to you here.
Cool.
Basically, it looks like one of those robot vacuum cleaners that people have in their house, but it drives around site doing your setting out.
Mhm.
It does it 10 times faster than humans, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but 1/1/16 of an inch accuracy. That sounds accurate. So yeah, pretty cool. Obviously efficient. I can't imagine this outside of like a building project with a slab, because it doesn't exactly look like it would deal with rough terrain. But yeah, definitely looks pretty useful.
Yeah, I heard these guys were. I think I heard the founder talking on Bricks and Bytes podcast or another podcast recently.
Right.
And I think they were talking about how their like initial or core market is like framing. So like in the US, I'd say I think like drywall. So kind of like non-load bearing wall fit out, where you got to flick all these lines for all these walls, and they will just drive around a slab in a building.
Especially like skyscrapers.
Yeah. No, that is cool. Are they outside of US?
Oh, yeah,
that's
maybe.
Right. Do your own research.
Potentially. The interesting part to this, though, was I was at a tier 1 contractor conference the other day, and there was a section on setting out from one of the survey team. And they were basically having a moan that site engineers are losing the art of being able to set out, largely because they're not site engineers for very long, because everyone pushes a lot quicker now than they used to 10 years ago of going up the tiers to earn more money and be promoted on jobs when they're resource light, which is easier to happen. So they were having a moan on this necessary skill sort of dying out and being more with the survey team. I guess you can have that argument with any technology.
I think at some point in history, someone was whinging or complaining. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
But at some point in history, someone was complaining about people losing the ability to do husbandry or something for horses.
Yeah, the abacus.
Yeah, the art of abacus maintenance is dying. These young mathematicians haven't learned anything about abacus maintenance. Well, what's interesting is that like there's kind of converging technologies, because I think separately there's the trend that is pushing forward with like an XYZ reality, where the idea is everyone's going to be wearing glasses and know exactly where to, put the wall or put the thing on site, because there'll be an augmented reality type experience, which would kind of make this printer thing redundant. But, how long is that going to take, and what type, are they in different niches, the kind of commercial builds or residential builds that might not have the margin for special glasses for everyone, could probably afford the robot that runs around and sets out walls.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. I should have done my research, whether it's over here in the UK or Oz.
I don't think it is.
I'd imagine on high rises in particular, the less people out on these floors, the better. So yeah, to have a robot doing that and not survey team, seems like a good place to be. So yeah, what's your first?
My number one is, have you heard of trunk tools?
Trunk Trump's tools.
No, Trump's
Trunk
tools are being named tools are being named into their cabinet position at the moment. This is
Nice.
This is trunk tools.
That might be a viral meme in there, mate.
Trunk Tools is an AI platform for construction, but it's effectively like construction search. So let me share my screen to you now. If you imagine you're on a construction project and you are trying to find, is there a design for a certain type of wall or something? What Trunk Tools does, if I quickly go to the page, is essentially integrates with a whole bunch of your core objects that you have on a project. So your drawings, your RFIs, your specifications, your contracts. Yeah, your works information, your schedule, and then it's going to run effectively a search over it, and like an AI powered search, and then come back and give you like a chat interface. So the examples are, people asking the question of, I'm installing some ductwork. Is there any specification regarding how I do X or Y? And it will come back with the links to the specification and RFIs that relate to it. So this is sat on top of, there's like a version of this for a lot of different industries getting built at the moment. There's some concepts in AI around RAG search. So essentially what happens is that they're kind of storing all this data that they're pulling from things like a Procore or Autodesk Cloud or other tools. It gets kind of stored in this vectorized database where these vectors kind of in space kind of associate things with other things. It's kind of like a very high level and terribly
is a super intelligent search.
Yeah, it's searching not based on keywords, but like concepts that are being baked into what they call like tokens or vectors.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's able to search across this space. Things that are near other things effectively are related in this like space.
Yeah.
And so then it's able to come back with the things. So you ask the question about ductwork or something. It will search across the space, get back its results, and then pass that thing into a language model, which will then read them and then come up with an answer to your question, and then any links to documents and things that you might need. It's effectively like what, if anyone's used Perplexity, the kind of answer engine, it's effectively what it's doing across the internet, but this is pulling the data from, your tools that you're using on the project.
Yeah, cool.
So I'm an avid Perplexity user, and I find it super useful day to day. And I imagine this would be a big unlock for the amount of time you've spent looking for. Where's the drawing that says X? Yeah, where in the contract does it say this? What was the specific specification that dealt with glazing or whatever?
And if you ask someone, they want you to find it yourself, even though you're like, am I really going to burn 3 hours when you know where it is?
Yeah. As a Perplexity user, I feel like this has a lot of overlap as a product. I think it's cool. What's your number 2?
Nice. So next up, I've got an application called Scrap, and it's effectively a platform that connects material, plant, and things like crane hire to contractors. Mm-hmm. So you can go straight onto their website. You've got effectively a marketplace of vendors, whether you just need like a skip or whichever like yard size skip you need, whether you need to buy basic sort of aggregate and concrete, it connects the contractor with the vendor. And the thing that makes it kind of unique and useful is the fact that it just utilizes local supply chain. So instead of going to the big vendors, you're going local every time, and it's sourcing it immediately. So yeah, looks pretty cool. My experience of this is limited, but most people would go to the buyer on the job and they'd hit some calls and call around to various yards or organizations.
Is this SKRAP, scrap with the cool spelling?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah. So like the one like really like they've got like the waste management and then like bulky goods are like the two core products.
Some of the big stuff, welfare units. So yeah, you could jump on the app, you can order what you need, it sources it locally, it turns up. Relatively simple without having to go to calling around each vendor. So yeah, they raised some cash a few years ago. £1 or £2 million. Yeah, I think there's 20 or 30 people within the business. Yeah, looks good. I don't know that part of the industry well enough to know how advanced the big guys are in terms of being able to order, or is it still quite old school? But my experience when I was on construction projects, it was a pretty old school process that the buyers were literally calling to find availability.
Yeah, cool. I think that is the idea of the marketplace is interesting. You don't know what their take rate is, do you?
What's a take rate?
They normally charge. So most marketplaces operate on a take rate, so they charge like a fee on the.
Oh, I see. No, I've got no information other than like the from rates for skip hire and things like that. So I don't know what it costs the actual organizations, but yeah,
no, good find. And that's a UK company.
Yeah, UK company. It looks exclusively UK at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously focused on cities and things like that. So yeah, I've not seen anything international yet. It looks like they're doubling down on, dominating this market now. So I'll be keeping an eye on it.
Cool. Right, my next one, and I think we might have to stop at 2 each because I think we're going to run out of time. But
it's fine. My third one's not very good. You're going to make me do it now. Anyway, we're doing 2.
I'd be lying if I said it didn't cross my mind. So my second one is one of our in our Australian team, one of our top requested integrations, and we've had Steve from Civillo on the podcast before. So if he is listening, we're keen for them.
Oh, so I could have done Document Crunch. Oh no, wait, I'm lost on the head count. Anyway, carry on.
And so I guess the problem statement is that construction is inherently geographic. Things are getting built on the ground in a certain point somewhere. QA is needing to be done at a certain point somewhere. Snag lists or lists need to be, there's issues at specific points in a job somewhere. And so geographic data is super useful for construction projects in all sorts of forms. The ability to coordinate and plan the project, being able to see design and current states of the site, drone imagery, etc., super useful. Currently, there is a limited set of tools to pull together all of that information in one spot. So there are certain tools that give you good visibility of like drone flyovers and maybe some other layer types, but not all of it in a way that you could kind of have all of the information geographically that you need about the project in one spot.
Yeah.
The main tool that we see used across major project is Esri's ArcGIS. But the observation from most projects is that it's extremely expensive because construction is one of the verticals that product serves, and the other ones that they serve, like government and defense, have a lot more money than construction contractors, and so the pricing is much more geared towards where they make their money. The other thing is that the complexity of setting it up, given how broad and powerful the product is, usually means that there is multiple headcount managing the ArcGIS environment. And so that keeps adding to the costs. It also means that the end user, like an engineer or a project manager on the project, is not really able to go and get to the information that they need in every scenario. And as a result, they're having to ask the people running the GIS system to go and help create a view or something that they can access. Civillo, we've seen used on lots of projects across Australia, where it's a simple version of this product where you can upload all sorts of different map-driven geographical data, and engineers can even set it up. Spoken as an engineer,
wow,
and they can get to the information they need, and it's currently in I think it's Australia only. I don't know if they've got projects outside. The guys that have started have got a surveying background, but like if I was in the UK, the base product, which basically gives you all of the stuff that most people are using. Yeah, a lot of people are using whole of ArcGIS for. It's 900 Aussie dollars a month, which is like 450 quid a month for a project.
It does also make sense because with visual things like that, there are lots of people that just need to jump on now and then. So when you go to the per seat model, it's quite difficult because it's not like for everyone. It isn't a daily thing that you need to do. So it kind of makes sense to go per project. Yeah.
And it doesn't always sit in like a core workflow. So they've got this like permits product that you can see here, which is a workflow that people need, and it's charged a little bit more. But with the core thing is just giving people access to geographical data. Yeah, the per seat thing is a little bit harder to price by, and so pricing by project, like that price.
Yeah,
it's like a pizza. It's a pizza party for a project.
It's a pizza party. Yeah, good comparison. No, and also small projects aren't really going to be using a tool like that anyway, so you're not really pricing out your sort of target market.
I think they are. Our observation is that what we've seen is, small projects. When we say small, we're talking like small infrastructure projects,
mega projects. Yeah.
So, no, like,
but not like a £5 million small building project. Like this budget's going to be reasonable for almost
like £50
anyone.
million civil jobs and up.
Yeah.
And it's exceptionally well priced. So worth, I reckon, check it out. Okay, that's our top 4. That's the list. And take that, Build in Digital. Okay. Last one on the list is a deep cut for Australian listeners. Is recent news that the next section of the Suburban Rail Loop tunnel package was awarded in Melbourne to a consortium of wholly international contractors. So joint venture called Terra Verde, which is Webuild, GS, ENC from South Korea, and Bouygues from, it's Bouygues Australia, but owned by the French contractor. They've secured a tunnel package worth about 1.8 billion Australian dollars. And it's the second tunnel package out of the 2 for the Suburban Rail Loop East section. For those that don't know the package, Suburban Rail Loop has like 3 main sections. It's one of Australia's largest infrastructure projects. I think I read like 27 or 30 billion or something is the total forecast budget. It's in 3 main sections: Suburban Rail Loop East, then North, and then West. And currently only East is really underway. The others are still in planning or financial business case review phase. So kind of like where HS2 is in some regards. The East section has awarded Works Package A, which has been well underway for a while. I think it's the Langer Rourke team that are delivering that, which is early works and utilities and some road modifications. Then Works Package B, which is power supply stuff, which I don't actually know who has been awarded that package. And then recently Works Package C, which I believe is... I should have checked. I believe is officially awarded, but if not, I'm going to say that I know that it is CPB and Acciona that are delivering that package. I think that's public knowledge. If not, we'll beep it out later. And then Works Package D, which is the one that was awarded here, is the Terra Verde joint venture. Carlos, you interested in moving to Melbourne?
It's quite the commute to London.
The conversation that's happening behind closed doors and is this idea that we've just awarded a contract to a bunch of international contractors that may or may not, people saying how much experience do they have in delivering these types of projects in Australia. When it all comes down to it, they are all very experienced at delivering these types of projects. Webuild delivering major infrastructure projects in continents all over the world. GSE&C are one of South Korea's largest infrastructure contractors, and Bouygues do this every day of the week, basically. And we talked the other week about the pros and cons of international contractors bidding and winning work in markets like the UK and Australia. Just to give my perspective before kind of handing back to you, is that I think the need for competition, especially when these projects result in 2-3-way joint ventures, if you only have a handful of players in the market, you very quickly lose a competitive environment to bid the projects. And so I think it's wholly a positive thing even though it would be good to see Australian contractors win these jobs, I think it's a wholly a positive thing to have folks like Webuild, GSE&C, Bouygues, Gamuda coming in and trying to win and compete for these projects. I think more competition is always good.
Yeah, 100%. It just shows how, without knowing the intricacies of like the tenders and the contracts being let, I'd love to know more on how, like, they must be competitive tenders, and for companies that are based thousands and thousands of miles away to still be competitive in these tenders means they must be either way ahead in terms of capability and like the innovative side of a bid submission, or they must be taking a hit on like their profitability in it, because they must not have all the people they need to deliver these projects. So the cost that comes with like hiring or moving people over and everything on top of the project, it must mean they've got a pretty strong angle to win these jobs over Australian companies that you would have thought would be way cheap on the prelim front, being based in these locations.
I think to win the job, they need to commit to having a presence in the country and having a financial commitment to the country. I don't think many people are awarding these size of contracts to people flying in and out for the meetings. Each one of those contractors definitely have a team on the ground here in Australia. And some of them have a very large presence. Like Webuild has a very large presence now in the country. But certainly they don't have the full team that a local contractor that's got a lot of projects currently on. When someone's entering and trying to win projects, they're going to have to hire people into the roles. And that will always bring some teething pains or teething difficulties and some like culture pains as that kind of grows. I think if you're the client, aka the government, you do kind of want to support a little bit in order to foster the environment of competition. Because if you come down too hard on it and you don't support it, you're going to be tendering the job to two companies all the time, and they're going to tell you what the price is.
Yeah, they'll take you to the cleaners every time. Yeah, and you need to, not just the competitiveness of the tender. It kind of boosts everything, like even down to the economy. Governments want international companies coming to Australia and bringing people with them. So
yeah, and some people will say that they like bid down the job and therefore there's not as much like profit in the project or whatever. But I think more competition means the infrastructure costs less, which means that more things can get built. So like instead of having one very expensive suburban rail loop, maybe that means one almost very expensive suburban rail loop and one little road job or something that can also get funded.
Yeah, for sure.
No, very interesting. I know we're definitely out of time. Thanks everyone for listening. And Carlos, would you like to read us out, mate?
Yeah, probably our shortest topic ever, but we've definitely over talked. But no, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning into today's show. If you did enjoy today's episode, please do think about liking the video or following us on your chosen podcast platform. We really do appreciate your support, and catch you all next week. Thanks, Chase.
Bye-bye.